Others? I think Bill?
Mr. Secretary and Congresswoman Herseth, thank you both for being here today. My name is Bill Chase. I'm president of South Dakota Corn Growers. I have a two-part question I'd like to ask you. The first one has to do with the ability and when we can expect a decision to move to higher blends. We've worked a long time to get this decision through and would certainly like to see a decision made in EPA to benefit the ethanol industry and corn farmers in South Dakota. The other part of my question has to do with indirect land use as part of the RFS. It's become a much bigger issue than it was ever intended as they opened it up to international land. And I think it's evident with the record corn crop that we're raising this year on fewer acres than we have in the past, that it's not necessary to have more acres. Do you see it as a legislative fix, or how do you see the indirect land use issue being taken care of? Thank you.
Anticipate that the EPA will meet the December deadline for deciding about the blend rate increase. They have, as you know, Bill, options anywhere from 11 to 15. They are in the process of assembling comments and assembling information and studies and data. There has constantly been this issue with reference to small engines that we have to keep knocking down, and we continue to knock it down, but I anticipate and expect a decision in December. I continue to remain optimistic. As I said to you earlier, I'm very hopeful that the constant advocacy on behalf of corn growers, on behalf of all of us, for an American energy supply will convince EPA to do what they ought to do, which is to increase the blend rate. I know this is a priority of the President's. I know that because he established a biofuels task force directing myself and Secretary Chu to make a set of recommendations to him on how we might be able to do a better job of promoting biofuels in the country. You can anticipate that we'll make a significant set of recommendations to the President, including focusing our research at USDA on feedstock research, which we have not done, and but we will do. Figuring out additional ways in which we can provide the infrastructure that will allow people to access these fuels where they are currently unavailable, and encouraging our friends in Detroit to continue to make more and more cars that are capable of using this fuel and encouraging the use of the fuel. On the indirect land use issue, as you know, the EPA was instructed to do a peer review of this. A lot of questions about the people that were selected to do the peer review, but there were enough folks in that peer review who raised some legitimate questions about the appropriateness and the accuracy of the science as it exists today, which makes it, at least in my mind, something that you would tread very carefully, trying to make policy on science that's not yet solidified. My hope is that EPA shares that view. I think it is hopeful, or it's certainly comforting to know that if for whatever reason EPA doesn't share that view, that there are those in Congress, like the Congresswoman and other senators that I've talked to, who have very serious concerns about whether or not this is a decision that should be made now, is a decision that should be made solely by EPA, or should it be a decision that's made in conjunction with USDA. We've done an effort recently to try to educate EPA on what's happening on the farm. We took some folks out to a number of states in an effort to try to give them a sense of what's going on the farm, and I think that's, and I know several senators did that as well, and that's been, I think, helpful to open up their eyes in terms of knowing what's going on out here. So I'm hoping we don't need a legislative fix, but it's always nice to be able to have that if the regulatory process doesn't work the way it ought to.
And just on that, if a legislative fix ultimately is required, which we hope we avoid, I think Senator Bingaman has had some very helpful recent comments as it relates to how the indirect land use issue was probably premature in including that in the last energy bill, and clearly is an issue among a few others that he's identified that needs to be readdressed. And so I appreciate the work that the Secretary has undertaken in helping share information with EPA in terms of some of the statistics that you cited, Bill, and some of what we know is happening with seed technology research will continue to improve these yields and affect their analysis, and clearly demonstrates a flaw in their modeling that peer review process exposed.
You know, Bill, as you know, the House bill does contain a provision that requires this to hold off for 5 years and can only be instituted if USDA and EPA sign off.